Welcome to Data Guy, the channel dedicated to helping you unlock the power of data.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the SQL tutorial series. In today's video, we're going to learn one of the most important concepts in SQL, that is the group by clause. So what is a group by? Group by is used when you want to summarize the data by category. That is, instead of summarizing the entire table, group by helps us to answer questions like count the number of purchases each customer made per market date. That is, using aggregate function, you can get the total number of purchases that has happened. But what if you want to take the total number of purchases as per market date? That is, in this particular date, on say for example on 1st of August, how many purchases has happened? On 2nd of August, how many purchase has happened? So in order to get that result, you need to use group by with the aggregate function. Okay. And the second one is you can also calculate the total quantity purchased per customer per date. So same way, on 1st of August, this customer ID has done a purchase of this much, and this customer ID 2 has done a purchase of this much. So likewise, also you can extract the data using group by clause. And the third question is, what is the total amount spent by customer ID 3 per market date? This is somewhat similar to the second one, but instead of quantity, it's the amount spent. The fourth one is, how many products were for sale on each market date? And the fifth one, how many unique products did each vendor bring during a date range? The last one, and we can also find the average price of products per vendor. Okay, so all these queries, the 6 queries, we're going to solve using group by and aggregate function. Now let's go to our MySQL workbench. First question, like I said, it count the number of purchases each customer made per market date. Okay, so for that, so let's start writing the query. So first of all, let's look at the customer purchase table to understand what columns are there and how the values are. So I'm just going to write select star from customer purchases table and run this query. Right, so that now we will know that customer purchases has columns such as product ID, vendor ID, market date, quantity, customer ID, and what is the cost and what is the transaction time. Okay. Now the question is, count the number of purchases each customer made per market date. So we need to have a market date and the number of purchases that happened on that particular date. So we will be using aggregate function as well in this query. So first we'll write the market date. Then we want to find the total number of purchases. Total number of purchases is nothing but example. When you look at this data, okay, if someone buys 3 units of the same item in one go, that shows as one row with the quantity of 3. Like for example, customer ID 14 has bought 2.18 quantity in one single transaction. So it is featuring as one row. So this is considered as one purchases. Okay, and if the same customer has bought 0.99 quantity before, exactly an hour before, okay, and that is considered as a separate purchase because he has not purchased this 0.99 and 2.18 quantity at the same time. Okay, so this is considered as second purchase. So what we need to do is we need to count the number of purchases made as per market date. So what we can do, we need to count the rows. To count the rows, we can use count function, count aggregate function. So we just write count will count it as quantity, or quantity as number of purchases from this one. Okay. While using group by, the main thing you need to do is, if you see in the select statement column, we have two entries. One is market date, the other one is count aggregate function with on the column quantity. Okay, here whatever non-aggregate column we're using in the select statement, that has to be mentioned in the group by clause. Okay, that is the main thing. Don't forget, group by market date. Okay, group by market date. Okay, now if we run this, got it. So it clearly shows that on 3rd July 2019 there were 20 purchases, on 6th July there were 17, 10th July there were 11, and 17th there were 16. In order to find which market date has highest number of purchases, we can use the order by clause. Just write order by number of purchases descending. Okay, now if you run this, it will clearly shows that 5th August has the highest number of purchases, followed by 1st of July, then 4th of July. Okay, so in that way we actually found out the number of purchases each customer made as per market date. Okay, next question is, what is the total quantity purchased per customer per date? Okay, so we'll again check, look at the customer purchase table to understand what we need to, how we can write this query. Okay, they want the total quantity. Okay, total quantity, not the number of purchases, the total quantity. That means we need to use sum of quantity, sum aggregate function on this quantity column. Okay, but what will be the non-aggregated column in this? Total quantity purchased per customer per date. So we want the data as per customer as well as the date. Example, customer number 14 in the 3rd July market date, customer number 14 has bought 0.99 and 2.18 quantity. So we need to sum up this and give the answer. So same way we need to do for all the market date and the customer ID. Okay, now let me just show you. The non-aggregate column would be market date, then customer ID, then aggregation we use sum quantity as total quantity from customer purchases. Okay, like I said, whatever non-aggregate column which is used in the select statement should be mentioned in the group by. Just write group by market date, just put a comma and write customer ID. Okay, now if you run this, so here in what we did is, instead of counting the purchase event, when we have we use the sum aggregate function to count the total quantity here. Okay, so now let's run this. As you can see, market date, customer ID, total quantity. On 3rd of July, customer ID 14 has bought 3.17 quantity. The same 3rd of July, customer ID 15 has bought 1.53 quantity. Okay, in order to understand this better, let's order this, let's sort this data by customer ID ascending. Okay, now see what happens. Right. So here customer ID 1 on the 20th he has bought 12 quantity, on 11th of July he has bought 9, on 22nd July he has bought 2. So now we have actually got the insight which tells us what what is the total quantity that a customer has purchased on every single day. Okay, we can use this data. Okay. Now let's go to the next question. What is the total amount spent by customer ID 3 per market date? Okay, now let's calculate how much a specific customer spent. Okay, and how you can get the total amount. Okay, let me show you the select star. From customer purchases, run this. Okay, how you can find the total amount? We can find it when you look at the table. We have cost to customer per quantity and the quantity column. All we need to do is we need to multiply these two, okay, to get the total amount spent. Okay, because the customer has bought 0.99 quantity and one quantity cost around $6.99. Okay, so you need to multiply this. When you multiply this, you'll get the total amount spent for that particular order. Okay, you'll get it. So, and also notice that the vendor ID is not included. And one more thing, if you see, we only include columns which we need while using group by. We don't include all the columns from the table when we're using group by, because when you do that, you won't get the proper insights from the data. Okay, so always include what are the columns which are necessary. Include only those. Okay, so now let's write the query. Let's complete the query. Here the non-aggregated column would be total amount spent by customer ID per market date. Okay, so the non-aggregated column would be market date, then write the sum function. What we can do is we can write the inline calculations inside the sum aggregate function. Okay, I'm just going to write quantity into this multiply cost to customer per quantity, and let's name it as total amount. Okay, from customer purchases, and in the group by market date. Okay, now when you do this, what happens? You didn't mention the customer ID here. Okay, so what happens? It'll count the total amount as per the market date. Okay, just a second, let me run this and show you. Okay, this what has happened is the output of the query is you got the total amount spent by the customer as per the market date. Okay, but here what the question is, we want to find the amount spent by customer ID 3 per market date. So what we can do, all you need to do is just include a filter in the query. How you can include the filter? Where clause. I'm just going to write where customer ID is equal to 3. That's it. When you use this where clause with customer ID is equal to 3, you will get only the results of customer ID 3 in this. Let us run this query. Got it. So this is the total amount spent by customer ID 3 as per market date. Okay, so let's make it even more better understanding. I'll just sort the data by market date. so that you will have a better understanding of the output. Got it. On 3rd April, you spend $4. On 13th April, you spend $20. 24th April, again you spend $20. So like this, you can get better insights from this query. Okay. Now let's go to the next one. How many products were for sale on each market date? Okay, so for this we'll use the vendor inventory table. Okay, so let's first query the vendor inventory table. Vendor inventory table. So we have columns such as market date, quantity, vendor ID, product ID, and original price. This product ID is very important because that's what we're going to use in this query. So the question is, how many products were for sale on each market date? Okay, so we need to have market date column, then we need to have the product ID column. Okay. So and also when you look at the table, you can understand it's just each product from each vendor appears as its own row. Okay, so counting the rows tells us how many items were listed for sale and not the quantity. Okay, that's the reason we're not using the customer purchases table in this. We are using the vendor inventory table. Okay, so we're going to count the rows, not the quantity. Because we just need to get the number of product entries. Okay, now let's write the query. Select market date. Okay, then count product ID as total products from vendor inventory table, and whatever non-aggregated column mentioned in the select statement should be mentioned in the group by clause, and we'll just use order by clause on the market date, and we'll write it as ascending. Okay, now let's run this query. Okay, so on 3rd April there were 4 products, 6th April there were 4 products. Let's see, till the month of May we have 4 products, but from June we started getting 5 products, and then it goes to 8, and so that's how you can get the insight on this. Okay, so guys, hope you all know on track, and if there is anything, please do mention in the comment section, and we'll fix it up. And how many unique now going to the next how many unique products did each vendor bring during a date range? Okay, here we have this word unique products. Okay, that means repeated products should not be counted, and you can achieve this by using the count function, but you need to also use the count distinct function to achieve this. Okay, now let's understand how this goes. We're going to use the same vendor inventory table. So the question is, how many unique products did each vendor bring during a date range? Okay, so we're going to use the vendor ID. Okay, we're going to use the vendor ID, and also we're going to use the product ID, but we're not going to use the count. We're going to use the count distinct. Okay, So this order. The last word is during a date range. Okay, it means that you can either use a date range in the where clause to filter the data, or else you can use the market date in one of the column to get the result as per the individual date. Okay, so in the previous 4 queries we have actually used the market date in the column. So in this query we will use the where clause to filter a particular date range and to get the output. Okay, so now let's write the query. So how many unique products did each vendor brings? Okay, so we want to get the result as per vendor. So let's write vendor ID as a non-aggregated column. Then we'll write count distinct product ID as number of unique product. Then go to table, let's write group by vendor ID. Okay, now I haven't mentioned the where clause, but first let me run this query and show you the output. Okay, so here vendor ID 4 has only one unique product. Okay, and vendor ID 7 has 4 and vendor ID 8 has 3. This is for the entire data. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to include the where clause, and we're going to filter the date range. And like for example, we'll take only the months from July and August. Okay, so just write where market date. We'll use a between clause because that is much better and easy. 19 July, right? So 01 this, and we need to use and clause again. 2019 801. Okay, now we want the data from 1st of July to, let's write it as 31st August. Okay, so we have selected the date range for 2 months. Now if we run this, got it. See this, vendor ID 4 has 1, vendor ID 7 has 4, and vendor ID 8 has 3. 3 unique products that were there. Okay.
If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Data Guy channel.